What if I told you that right now, millions of older women are being manipulated in ways so subtle, so carefully crafted, that they don't even realize it's happening? What if some of the behaviors you've been dismissing as quirks, or even interpreting as signs of affection, are actually calculated moves designed to control, exploit, or take advantage of you? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on manipulation tactics that specifically target older women. These aren't the obvious red flags everyone warns you about. These are the subtle, insidious behaviors that slip under your radar, disguised as care, concern, or even love. By the end of this video, you'll have a comprehensive understanding of these tactics, and more importantly, you'll know exactly how to spot them and protect yourself. Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the psychology of relationships, personal safety, and emotional well-being. Today's video is incredibly important, and I want you to stay with me until the very end, because what we're about to discuss could fundamentally change how you navigate your relationships and protect yourself from emotional harm. Before we begin, if you find value in content that helps protect and empower you, please take a moment to hit that like button below. It really helps our channel reach more people who need to hear this message. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos on relationship psychology, personal development, and emotional intelligence. Your support means everything to us, and if you really want to help keep this channel going strong, consider using the Super Thanks button below this video. Every bit of support helps us create more content that matters. Also, I encourage you to share this video with the women in your life who might benefit from this information. Sometimes the most caring thing we can do is share knowledge that protects those we love. Drop a comment below letting me know your thoughts as we go through this topic, because your experiences and insights help build a supportive community here. Chapter 1. Understanding why older women are targeted. Let's start with a difficult truth that we need to acknowledge. Older women are often specifically targeted by manipulators for several reasons, and understanding these reasons is your first line of defense. First, there's the assumption of financial stability. Many older women have worked their entire lives building savings, investments, perhaps receiving inheritance or divorce settlements. Manipulators see this financial security not as something you've earned through hard work and sacrifice, but as an opportunity for them to exploit. They know that after years of managing your own finances, you might be looking for someone to share your life with, someone you can trust. They position themselves as that trustworthy person, all while eyeing your resources. Second, there's the emotional vulnerability that can come with life transitions. Perhaps you've recently divorced after decades of marriage. Maybe you've lost a spouse and are navigating the world of dating for the first time in years. Or you might be dealing with children who have moved away, leaving you with an empty nest and a desire for companionship. Manipulators are experts at identifying these transition periods because they know you might be more willing to overlook red flags in exchange for connection and companionship. Third, there's the societal conditioning that many older women have experienced throughout their lives. You might have been raised in an era where women were taught to be accommodating, to put others' needs first, to avoid conflict, and to make relationships work at all costs. While these can be beautiful qualities, manipulators specifically seek out women with these traits because they know you're more likely to give them the benefit of the doubt, to forgive transgressions, and to blame yourself when things go wrong. Fourth, there's the isolation factor. As we age, our social circles often naturally shrink. Friends may have moved away, passed on, or become absorbed in their own family obligations. Adult children have their own lives and responsibilities. This natural reduction in social connections can leave you more vulnerable to someone who seems to offer companionship and attention. Manipulators know that if they can position themselves as your primary or only source of emotional support, you'll be less likely to leave even when their behavior becomes problematic. Fifth, there's the technological gap that some manipulators exploit. While many older women are tech-savvy, others might feel less confident navigating online dating platforms, social media, or digital financial systems. Manipulators might position themselves as helpful guides in these areas, gradually gaining access to your personal information, accounts, or online presence under the guise of assistance. Chapter 2. The Love Bombing Phase. Now let's dive into one of the most powerful manipulation tactics, love bombing. This is often how the manipulation begins, and it's designed to be so overwhelming, so intoxicating, that you don't notice the hooks being set. Love bombing looks like a fairy tale romance at first. You meet someone who seems absolutely captivated by you. They text you good morning and good night every single day. They remember every little detail you share about yourself. They send flowers to your workplace, surprising you in front of your colleagues. They plan elaborate dates and seem to instinctively know exactly what you want to hear. But here's what's really happening beneath the surface. This isn't genuine affection developing naturally over time. This is a calculated campaign designed to create emotional dependency. The manipulator is studying you, learning your insecurities, your desires, your unfulfilled needs from past relationships. Every grand gesture, every perfectly timed compliment, every declaration of unprecedented connection is strategically deployed to make you feel like you've finally found your soulmate. They'll say things like, "I've never felt this way about anyone before," just weeks into knowing you. They'll talk about the future constantly, making plans for vacations next year, discussing where you'll retire together, maybe even hinting at marriage, all while you're still in what should be the getting to know you phase. This future faking, as psychologists call it, is designed to make you emotionally invest in a relationship before you've had time to properly evaluate the person you're with. The intensity of love bombing serves multiple manipulative purposes. First, it triggers a powerful chemical response in your brain. The constant attention and validation release dopamine, creating an almost addictive high. You start to crave their messages, their presence, their approval. Second, it moves the relationship at such a breakneck pace that you don't have time to process red flags or listen to your intuition. Third, it creates a baseline of extreme attention that they can later withdraw as a form of control. Watch for these specific love bombing behaviors. They claim you're unlike anyone they've ever met, but they can't really articulate what makes you special beyond superficial observations. They push for commitment extremely quickly, perhaps wanting to move in together after just a few months or pressing for exclusive commitment before you've had a chance to really know them. They shower you with expensive gifts that feel inappropriate for the stage of your relationship, especially if they later use these gifts to make you feel indebted. They monopolize your time, always having plans that prevent you from maintaining your other relationships or pursuing your own interests. They present themselves as your perfect match, seeming to share all your interests, values, and life goals. But you might notice they never take the lead in these areas, always waiting for you to express a preference first before enthusiastically agreeing. Chapter 3. The Isolation Strategy. Once the love bombing phase has created that initial emotional dependency, manipulators often move to the isolation phase. This is where they systematically work to become your primary or only source of emotional support, validation, and companionship. The isolation doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process, so subtle that you might not realize it's happening until you suddenly find yourself completely dependent on this one person. It often starts with small criticisms of the people in your life. They might say something like, "I'm not sure your friend Sarah really has your best interests at heart. Did you notice how she seemed jealous when you told her about us?" These comments plant seeds of doubt. They're never overtly demanding that you cut people off, at least not at first. Instead, they position themselves as the only person who truly understands and protects you. They create conflicts around social events. Suddenly, every time you have plans with friends or family, they have an emergency. They're feeling sick. They had a terrible day at work. Their car broke down. You find yourself canceling plans repeatedly to take care of them or comfort them. Over time, your friends stop inviting you places because you've become unreliable. Your family starts to feel like you're choosing this new person over them. But from your perspective, you're just being a caring, supportive partner. The manipulator might also use more subtle tactics to achieve isolation. They sulk or become moody when you spend time with others, making you feel guilty for leaving them alone. They interrogate you after social interactions, asking probing questions that feel like jealousy or possessiveness disguised as interest. They make you feel like time spent with anyone else is time stolen from your relationship. Technology becomes another tool for isolation. They might insist on having access to your phone or social media accounts, claiming it's about transparency and trust. They monitor your communications, question you about messages from friends, or react with hurt and anger if you don't immediately respond to their texts when you're with others. Some go as far as creating drama on your social media, embarrassing you in front of your online community so you gradually withdraw from these platforms. Financial isolation is particularly insidious. They might encourage you to make financial decisions that increase your dependency on them or decrease your connections to others. Perhaps they suggest you sell your home and move in with them, leaving you without your own space to retreat to. They might pressure you to leave your job, claiming they can support both of you, but really wanting to control your income and limit your daily interactions with colleagues. Geographic isolation is another tactic. They might push for you both to move somewhere new, away from your established support network. They frame it as a romantic fresh start, a new adventure for just the two of you. But in reality, they know that in a new place where you don't know anyone, you'll be entirely dependent on them for social interaction and support. Chapter 4: Financial Manipulation Tactics. Financial manipulation is one of the most damaging forms of control, and it often specifically targets older women who have accumulated assets over their lifetime. This manipulation can range from subtle pressure to outright theft, and it's often disguised as love, partnership, or concern for your well-being. It might start innocuously enough. They forget their wallet when you go out to dinner, promising to pay next time, but next time never seems to come. They have a temporary cash flow problem and ask for a small loan, which they repay promptly, building your trust. But the loans gradually get larger, the repayments slower until you're regularly funding their lifestyle while they always have an excuse for why they can't contribute. They might present themselves as investment experts or financially savvy partners who want to help you manage your money better. They express concern that you're not maximizing your investments, that your financial advisor is taking advantage of you, or that you're being too conservative with your money. Gradually, they position themselves as the expert you should trust, encouraging you to make financial decisions that benefit them. Watch for these specific financial manipulation tactics. They push for joint bank accounts very early in the relationship, claiming it's a sign of commitment and trust. They encourage you to add their name to your property, vehicles, or other assets, framing it as a romantic gesture of sharing your life together. They have elaborate investment opportunities that require your capital, but somehow never quite pan out as promised. Some manipulators use guilt as their primary tool for financial exploitation. They share sob stories about their difficult past, their struggling family members, or their unfair financial hardships. You find yourself offering to help because you're a caring person, but the crises never end. There's always another emergency, another family member in need, another unexpected expense that only you can solve. The health crisis manipulation is particularly cruel. They develop sudden health problems that require expensive treatments not covered by insurance. They need specialized care, experimental procedures, or alternative therapies that drain your savings. Sometimes these health issues are entirely fabricated. Other times they're real but exaggerated, used as leverage to keep you financially supporting them out of compassion and guilt. Credit manipulation is another serious concern. They might pressure you to co-sign loans, claiming it's temporary until they rebuild their credit. They might apply for credit cards in your name without your knowledge, or use your existing cards for purchases you didn't authorize. They gradually entangle your financial life with theirs in ways that are difficult and expensive to untangle later. Business partnership manipulation occurs when they present themselves as entrepreneurs with brilliant ideas that just need your investment to succeed. They involve you in business ventures where you provide the capital while they provide the expertise, but somehow the businesses always fail, and your investment disappears. They might pressure you to mortgage your home for business capital or liquidate your retirement savings for their startup. Chapter 5: Emotional Manipulation and Gaslighting. Emotional manipulation is perhaps the most insidious form of control because it attacks your very sense of reality. Gaslighting, a term that comes from a classic film where a husband deliberately tries to make his wife think she's going insane, is a cornerstone of emotional manipulation. It makes you question your own perceptions, memories, and sanity. Gaslighting often starts small. You clearly remember them saying they would be home for dinner, but they insist they told you they had plans. You know you put your keys in your purse, but they turn up somewhere else, and they suggest you're becoming forgetful. These small instances of reality distortion build over time until you no longer trust your own memory or judgment. They rewrite history constantly. Arguments you clearly remember having never happened according to them. Promises they made were never made, or you misunderstood what they meant. They said something hurtful, but when you bring it up, they claim you're too sensitive, you're overreacting, or you're remembering it wrong. Eventually, you stop trusting your own recollection of events and start deferring to their version of reality. The emotional manipulation extends beyond gaslighting. They use your emotions as weapons against you. When you express hurt or concern about their behavior, they flip the script and become the victim. Suddenly, you're apologizing for bringing up your concerns, comforting them for the pain your accusations have caused. This tactic, called DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender, is devastatingly effective at shutting down any attempts to address problematic behavior. They weaponize your insecurities and past traumas. Information you shared with them in moments of vulnerability becomes ammunition during conflicts. If you've shared that your ex-husband criticized your appearance, they might make subtle comments about your looks when they want to undermine your confidence. If you've confided about childhood trauma, they might trigger those memories deliberately to destabilize you during arguments. Silent treatment is another powerful emotional manipulation tool. When you don't comply with their wishes or when you try to establish boundaries, they withdraw all affection and communication. They might go days without speaking to you, leaving you in emotional limbo, desperate to fix whatever you did wrong. This punishment through withdrawal teaches you that maintaining peace requires sacrificing your own needs and boundaries. They create chaos and instability in your emotional life. One day they're loving and attentive, the next they're cold and critical. You never know which version of them you'll encounter. So you're constantly walking on eggshells, modifying your behavior to avoid triggering their negative reactions. This intermittent reinforcement, unpredictable rewards mixed with punishment, is psychologically proven to create the strongest behavioral conditioning. Jealousy becomes a tool of control, disguised as love. They react with extreme jealousy to innocent interactions, making you feel guilty for normal social behaviors. They might accuse you of flirting with the grocery store clerk who smiled at you, or suggest you're having an affair with a longtime friend. Over time, you modify your behavior to avoid triggering their jealousy, effectively policing yourself on their behalf. Chapter 6: The Sympathy and Victim. Cardmaster manipulators often present themselves as perpetual victims, using sympathy as a tool to exploit your compassionate nature. This victim narrative serves multiple purposes. It explains away their failures, excuses their poor behavior, and most importantly, it keeps you in a caretaking role where you're so focused on helping them heal that you ignore the harm they're causing you. Their victim story is usually elaborate and heart-wrenching. They've been betrayed by everyone they've ever trusted. Their ex-wife took everything in the divorce and turned their children against them. Their business partner embezzled funds and destroyed their company. Their family scapegoated them and never understood their potential. Every relationship, every job, every opportunity was sabotaged by others who were jealous, cruel, or unfair. At first, you feel privileged to be the one person who understands them, the one who can finally give them the love and support they've never had. You want to prove that not everyone will hurt them. You want to be their safe harbor in a storm of life's cruelties. This is exactly what they're counting on. The victim narrative allows them to avoid accountability for anything. When they lose their temper, it's because they were triggered by past trauma. When they can't hold down a job, it's because they're too sensitive for this cruel world. When they lie or cheat, it's because they learned not to trust from all the people who betrayed them. There's always an excuse rooted in their victimhood that makes you feel guilty for holding them accountable. They use their victim status to monopolize your emotional energy. You become their unpaid therapist, constantly listening to their grievances, soothing their wounds, building up their self-esteem. But notice how they never actually heal or grow. They don't seek professional help or take steps to address their trauma. They prefer to remain in the victim role because it's profitable for them in terms of the attention, care, and forgiveness it generates. Health victimhood is a particularly manipulative variant. They always have mysterious ailments that doctors can't quite diagnose. They're in constant pain that prevents them from contributing, but somehow doesn't stop them from doing things they enjoy. They use their health issues to avoid responsibilities, to demand care and attention, and to make you feel guilty for having any needs of your own when they're suffering so much. The victim manipulator often uses comparison to make you feel guilty. They point out how much harder their life has been compared to yours. If you grew up in a stable home, they remind you that they didn't have that privilege. If you've had career success, they emphasize how unfair it is that opportunities were denied to them. This comparison isn't meant to build understanding. It's meant to make you feel like you owe them compensation for life's inequities. Chapter 7. Sexual Manipulation. Sexual manipulation in relationships with older women takes many forms, and it's important to discuss this openly because shame and silence around this topic make women more vulnerable to exploitation. Manipulators may use sex as a tool of control, a reward and punishment system, or a means of creating insecurity and dependency. Some manipulators begin with excessive sexual attention, making you feel incredibly desired and attractive. For women who may have felt invisible or undesirable as they've aged, this attention can be intoxicating. They make you feel like you're the most beautiful, sexually appealing woman they've ever been with. But this intense sexual attention is often part of the love bombing phase, designed to create addiction and dependency. Then comes the withdrawal. Once they've established that sexual dynamic, they begin to withhold affection and intimacy as a form of control. They might claim they're stressed, tired, or not in the mood, but you notice that their interest returns when they want something from you. Sex becomes transactional, available only when you've been compliant enough, generous enough, or when they need to smooth over their bad behavior. Age-based sexual manipulation is particularly cruel. They might make subtle comments comparing you to younger women, suggesting that you should be grateful for their attention given your age. They might mention younger women who are interested in them, creating insecurity and competition. Some go as far as to suggest that your natural aging process is the reason for any relationship problems, making you consider cosmetic procedures or desperately trying to appear younger to keep their interest. Some manipulators use pornography or unrealistic sexual expectations to create insecurity. They compare you to pornographic performances or much younger women in media, setting impossible standards that no real woman could meet. They might pressure you into sexual acts you're uncomfortable with, claiming that your reluctance shows you're prudish, old-fashioned, or not invested in pleasing them. The withholder is another type of sexual manipulator. They create a relationship with little to no physical intimacy, making you feel undesirable and desperate for any sign of attraction. When you express your needs for physical connection, they make you feel shallow or overly sexual. They might claim that their lack of interest is your fault, that you've gained weight, that you don't dress attractively enough, or that your neediness is a turnoff. Medical sexual manipulation involves using real or fabricated medical conditions to control the sexual relationship. They might claim erectile dysfunction that mysteriously resolves when they're getting their way in other areas. They might use menopause or age-related changes in your body as weapons, suggesting that your changing hormones make you irrational, overly emotional, or difficult to be attracted to. Chapter 8. The Technology and Information Control in Our Digital Age. Technology has become a new frontier for manipulation, and older women who might be less familiar with certain digital platforms can be particularly vulnerable to these tactics. Manipulators use technology not just as a tool for control, but as a means of gathering information, monitoring behavior, and isolating their victims from support systems. Social media manipulation is increasingly common. They might insist on having your passwords, claiming it's about transparency in the relationship. They monitor your online interactions, questioning you about every friend request, every like, every comment. They might post on your behalf, gradually changing how you present yourself online until your digital presence no longer reflects who you really are. Some manipulators create fake social media profiles to monitor you or test your loyalty. They might create a fake profile of an attractive man to see if you'll respond to flirtation. They might use fake profiles to spread rumors about you to your online community, damaging your reputation while maintaining plausible deniability. They might even impersonate you online, sending messages that damage your relationships with others. Email and communication monitoring extends beyond social media. They might install tracking software on your devices without your knowledge, allowing them to see every email you send, every website you visit, every text message you receive. If you're not particularly tech-savvy, you might not even know this surveillance is possible, let alone how to detect or prevent it. Financial technology manipulation is particularly dangerous. They might gain access to your online banking, investment accounts, or shopping accounts. They watch your spending, question every purchase, and might even make transactions without your knowledge. They might set up automatic transfers that slowly drain your accounts, small enough that you might not notice immediately, but significant over time. Location tracking is another tool of control. They might insist on having location sharing enabled on your phone, claiming it's for safety, but they use this information to monitor your every movement, questioning why you stopped at a particular store or why a journey took longer than expected. This constant surveillance makes you feel like you can never have privacy or autonomy. Digital isolation tactics include damaging your online reputation so severely that you withdraw from digital spaces entirely. They might share private photos or information about you, hack your accounts to send embarrassing messages, or create such drama in your online spaces that you find it easier to simply disconnect. Once you're offline, you're cut off from many modern support systems and resources. The tech-savvy manipulator might also use your lack of digital knowledge to their advantage in other ways. They might claim to be helping you with online tasks while actually accessing your private information. They might set up accounts or services in your name without your full understanding of what you're agreeing to. They might even use your identity for their own purposes, opening credit lines or making purchases that you'll be responsible for. Chapter 9. The Family and Friends, Wedge 1. One of the most painful aspects of manipulation is watching the person systematically damage your relationships with family and friends. This isn't just about isolation. It's about destroying the very support systems that could help you recognize and escape the manipulation. The manipulator knows that your loved ones are their biggest threat because these are the people who knew you before, who can see the changes in you, and who might voice concerns about your relationship. The wedge often begins with subtle criticisms of your children or grandchildren. They point out how your adult children don't visit enough, don't help enough, don't appreciate all you've done for them. They emphasize every perceived slight, every forgotten birthday call, every time your children prioritize their own families over visiting you. Slowly, they build a narrative that your children are selfish, ungrateful, and don't deserve your love and resources. When it comes to grandchildren, they might create unnecessary competition or conflict. They establish rules about when and how your grandchildren can visit, making it increasingly difficult for you to maintain those precious relationships. They might be cold or unwelcoming when your grandchildren are around, making visits uncomfortable for everyone. Some go as far as to create situations where you have to choose between them and your grandchildren, knowing that you'll feel guilty either way. With your friends, the manipulation might be more direct. They find fault with every friend you have. Your longtime friend is too negative. Another is a bad influence, yet another is jealous of your relationship. They create conflict at social gatherings, perhaps drinking too much and causing scenes, or being rude to your friends until those friends stop inviting you places. They might share private information you've told them about your friends, creating breaches of trust that are difficult to repair. The manipulator becomes the interpreter of all your relationships. They point out hidden meanings in innocent comments, suggest that people are talking about you behind your back, or claim to have overheard conversations where your friends expressed negative opinions about you. They position themselves as the only person who truly has your back, the only one who tells you the truth about what others really think. Family events become battlegrounds. They create drama at holiday gatherings, make scenes at family celebrations, or refuse to attend important events, forcing you to choose between them and your family. When you do attend family events without them, they punish you with cold behavior, arguments, or by creating their own crisis that ruins the event for you, even from a distance. They might also use financial manipulation to drive a wedge between you and your family. They convince you that your children are only interested in their inheritance, that they're waiting for you to die to get your money. They encourage you to change your will, cutting out family members who have expressed concern about your relationship. They might even create financial conflicts, borrowing money from your family members in your name or making you seem financially irresponsible to those who care about you. Chapter 10. The Mental Health Weaponization 1. Particularly insidious form of manipulation involves weaponizing mental health, both yours and theirs. Manipulators often use mental health as both a sword and a shield, attacking your psychological well-being, while using their own claimed mental health issues to avoid accountability for their behavior. They might begin by questioning your mental state whenever you challenge them or express dissatisfaction. If you're upset about their behavior, they suggest you're being irrational, perhaps due to hormones, age, or stress. They might recommend you see a therapist not for your well-being, but to fix whatever they claim is wrong with you. Some even accompany you to therapy sessions, controlling the narrative and ensuring the therapist only hears their version of events. Medication manipulation is a serious concern. They might pressure you to take psychiatric medications you don't need, claiming you're anxious, depressed, or unstable. Conversely, if you're on necessary medications, they might convince you to stop taking them, claiming the drugs are changing your personality or that you don't really need them. Either approach destabilizes your mental health and makes you more vulnerable to their control. They use diagnostic language as weapons. Suddenly, they're experts in psychology, diagnosing you with personality disorders, claiming you're narcissistic when you assert boundaries, or borderline when you express emotions. They throw around terms like bipolar, paranoid, or delusional whenever you question their behavior or remember events differently than they claim. Meanwhile, they use their own mental health as a shield against accountability. When confronted about their behavior, they claim depression, anxiety, PTSD, or other conditions that excuse their actions. They threaten self-harm if you leave or establish boundaries, making you feel responsible for their well-being. Some go as far as to stage suicide attempts or create mental health crises whenever you try to assert independence. The therapy manipulation is particularly clever. They might agree to couples therapy, but then manipulate the sessions, charming the therapist while painting you as the problem. They selectively share information, creating a false narrative that makes their behavior seem reasonable and your reactions seem extreme. Some even use what you share in therapy as ammunition in later arguments, violating the trust and safety that therapy should provide. Sleep deprivation is a tool of mental destabilization that often goes unrecognized. They keep you up late with arguments that could wait until morning. They wake you in the middle of the night with crises or accusations. They create chaos in your sleep schedule until you're exhausted, emotionally fragile, and cognitively impaired. In this state, you're more susceptible to their manipulation and less able to think clearly about your situation. Chapter 11. The professional and social status. Manipulation. For many older women who have built successful careers or established social standing in their communities, manipulators often target these achievements as areas to exploit or undermine. They understand that your professional identity and social status are not just about ego, but often represent decades of hard work, sacrifice, and personal identity. The manipulator might initially present themselves as your biggest supporter, proud of your achievements and eager to celebrate your success. But gradually, this support transforms into something more sinister. They begin to suggest that your career success has come at the cost of your femininity or your ability to be a good partner. They imply that your professional accomplishments intimidate other people or make you difficult to love. In social situations, they might embarrass you in front of colleagues or friends, perhaps by drinking too much at professional events, sharing inappropriate personal information, or contradicting your professional expertise in your own field. They create situations where you have to choose between maintaining your professional reputation and managing their behavior, gradually making professional engagement so stressful that you withdraw. Some manipulators position themselves as professional advisors or partners, gradually inserting themselves into your career or business. They might offer to help with your work, slowly taking credit for your achievements or making themselves indispensable to your professional life. If you own a business, they might maneuver themselves into a position of control, perhaps becoming an employee or partner who gradually assumes more authority than appropriate. The retirement manipulation is particularly relevant for older women. As you approach or enter retirement, they pressure you to make decisions that benefit them. They might encourage you to retire early so you can spend more time together, but really they want you available to cater to their needs full-time. They might push you to take a lump sum pension payout that they can access rather than monthly payments that provide steady income. Social status manipulation involves using your position in the community to their advantage while simultaneously undermining it. They might use your connections for their own benefit, asking you to make introductions or recommendations that put your reputation on the line. At the same time, they behave in ways that damage your standing, creating scandals or conflicts that reflect poorly on you. They create professional dependencies that make it harder to leave the relationship. Perhaps they've become involved in your business in ways that would make separation complicated and costly. Maybe they've positioned themselves as essential to your professional life, handling tasks or relationships that would be difficult to transition to someone else. Some even threaten to reveal professional secrets or damage your career if you try to leave. Chapter 12. Cultural and religious exploitation. Manipulators often exploit cultural values, religious beliefs, and generational expectations to control their victims. For older women who were raised with strong cultural or religious traditions, these deeply held values can become tools of manipulation in the hands of someone who understands how to weaponize them. If you come from a religious background, the manipulator might use scripture or religious teachings to justify their behavior and control yours. They might quote religious texts about submission, forgiveness, or the sanctity of relationships to prevent you from leaving or setting boundaries. They position themselves as spiritually superior, claiming a closer connection to God or deeper understanding of faith that you should defer to. They might insist on controlling your religious practice, perhaps preventing you from attending services where you might find support, or insisting you join their religious community where they have more control over the narrative. Some manipulators use religious guilt as a weapon, suggesting that your doubts about the relationship show lack of faith, or that leaving would be a sin that condemns your soul. Cultural expectations about relationships, particularly for women of certain generations or backgrounds, become tools of control. They might emphasize cultural values about keeping family matters private, ensuring you don't seek help or share your troubles with others. They use cultural expectations about divorce, suggesting that leaving would bring shame on your family or community. For women from cultures that emphasize respect for male authority, manipulators exploit these values to establish unquestionable control. They might claim that their behavior is normal in their culture, that you're being too Western or modern in your expectations. They use cultural relativism to excuse abuse, suggesting that what seems like manipulation to you is actually just cultural difference. Generational expectations also become weapons. They might emphasize how women of your generation were supposed to be supportive wives who stood by their men through anything. They compare you unfavorably to their mother or women from previous generations who knew how to make relationships work. They suggest that modern ideas about equality or independence are destroying your ability to be happy in a relationship. The extended family dynamic in certain cultures provides additional opportunities for manipulation. They might turn your extended family against you, or use family pressure to keep you in the relationship. In cultures where extended family opinions carry significant weight, they work to control the narrative, ensuring that leaving them would mean losing your entire family network. Language barriers, for women who might be more comfortable in their native language, become tools of isolation and control. The manipulator might prevent you from maintaining connections with people who speak your language, gradually cutting you off from cultural community and support. They might mock your accent or language skills, making you feel insecure about communicating with others. Chapter 13. The inheritance and estate planning manipulation. As we move into the later stages of life, questions of inheritance, estate planning, and end-of-life care become increasingly important. Manipulators who target older women often have their eyes on the long game, positioning themselves to benefit from your estate while you're alive and after you're gone. This type of manipulation is particularly painful because it corrupts what should be a process of ensuring your wishes are honored and your loved ones are cared for. The manipulator often begins by expressing concern about your estate planning. They might suggest that your current will is outdated, that your chosen beneficiaries don't appreciate you, or that you need to protect your assets from greedy family members. They position themselves as the only person who truly cares about your wishes rather than your money, all while maneuvering to become the primary beneficiary themselves. They create urgency around estate planning changes. Perhaps they claim that your family is planning to challenge your competency, or that you need to act quickly to protect your assets. This urgency prevents you from thinking carefully about changes or consulting with independent legal advisors. They might arrange for lawyers they know, who may not have your best interests at heart, or pressure you to make changes without proper legal counsel. Power of attorney manipulation is extremely dangerous. They convince you to grant them power of attorney, claiming it's just a precaution in case something happens to you. But once they have this power, they can make financial and legal decisions on your behalf, potentially even while you're still fully capable. They might start small, handling minor financial tasks, but gradually expand their control over your affairs. The healthcare directive manipulation involves them positioning themselves as your healthcare proxy or decision maker, They convince you that your family wouldn't honor your wishes or would make decisions based on their own interests rather than your well-being. Once in this position, they have enormous control over your care, potentially making decisions that prioritize their inheritance over your health and comfort. Joint ownership manipulation is another common tactic. They pressure you to add their name to your home, bank accounts, or other assets. They frame this as a romantic gesture of commitment or a practical matter for managing shared expenses. But joint ownership gives them immediate access to and control over these assets, and in many cases, survivorship rights that bypass your will entirely. They might manipulate your relationships with your chosen beneficiaries to justify estate planning changes. They create conflicts with your children or grandchildren, then point to these conflicts as evidence that your family doesn't deserve your legacy. They might intercept communications, creating misunderstandings that make your family seem uncaring or greedy. Life insurance manipulation involves them, pressuring you to take out new policies with them as beneficiary, or to change beneficiaries on existing policies. They might claim it's to cover final expenses or to ensure they're cared for if something happens to you. But these policies become financial incentives that put you at risk. Chapter 14. The recovery and addiction exploitation. For older women who might be dealing with grief, loneliness, health issues, or life transitions, vulnerability to addiction or reliance on substances for coping can become another avenue for manipulation. Whether it's alcohol, prescription medications, or other substances, manipulators know how to exploit these vulnerabilities for their own gain. Some manipulators actively encourage substance use. They keep your wine glass full at dinner, always suggest a drink to relax, or enable drinking habits that they know are problematic. They might introduce you to prescription medications, perhaps sharing their own or helping you find doctors who will prescribe what they suggest you need. This isn't about sharing enjoyment. It's about impairment that makes you easier to control. When you're under the influence, you're more vulnerable to suggestion, less likely to resist their demands, and might not fully remember agreements you've made or documents you've signed. They might conduct important conversations or pressure you for decisions when they know you're impaired, later holding you to commitments you don't remember making. If you're in recovery from addiction, they might sabotage your sobriety. They bring alcohol into your home despite knowing you're in recovery. They minimize the importance of your support meetings or therapy sessions. They create stress and chaos that they know triggers your desire to use. Some even explicitly offer substances during moments of vulnerability, knowing that relapse will make you more dependent on them and less likely to have the strength to leave. Medication manipulation extends beyond psychiatric drugs. They might interfere with medications for chronic conditions, either encouraging overuse that leaves you sedated or discouraging proper use that leaves you unwell. They become gatekeepers of your medication, controlling when and how you take necessary drugs, using this control to reward compliance or punish resistance. They exploit the shame and secrecy that often surrounds addiction. If they've enabled or encouraged substance use, they then use your addiction as leverage. They threaten to expose your problem to family and friends, to report you to authorities if relevant, or to use your addiction against you in legal proceedings. They position themselves as the only person who accepts you despite your problem, increasing your dependency on them. Recovery isolation is particularly cruel. They discourage or prevent you from attending support meetings, claiming these groups are cult-like or that you don't need them anymore. They express jealousy about relationships you form in recovery, particularly with sponsors or group members who might recognize the manipulation in your relationship. They create conflicts around recovery activities, forcing you to choose between your sobriety support and keeping peace in your relationship. Chapter 15. The physical health and medical manipulation. As we age, health concerns naturally become more prominent, and manipulators exploit these vulnerabilities in numerous ways. They use your health conditions, medical needs, and natural aging process as tools of control, often disguising their manipulation as care and concern. Medical gaslighting is devastatingly effective. They convince you that real symptoms are imaginary, or that imaginary symptoms are real. They might dismiss your legitimate health concerns as hypochondria or anxiety, preventing you from seeking necessary medical care. Conversely, they might convince you that you're sicker than you are, fostering dependency and limiting your activities based on exaggerated or false health limitations. They position themselves as medical gatekeepers, insisting on attending all doctor appointments, speaking for you during consultations, and interpreting medical information for you. They might withhold information from your doctors or provide false information that affects your care. Some even impersonate you to medical providers, making decisions or accessing information without your knowledge. Medication control becomes a powerful tool. They manage your prescriptions, deciding when you take medications and potentially withholding them as punishment or control. They might encourage you to skip doses to save money, their real motivation being to keep you unwell and dependent. Some manipulators even steal medications, particularly pain medications or anxiety medications, for their own use or to sell. The caregiver manipulator presents themselves as essential to your health and well-being. They exaggerate your need for care, doing things for you that you're capable of doing yourself, fostering learned helplessness. They might injure you accidentally on purpose, creating situations where you need their care. Some even cause mystery illnesses through poisoning or other means, though this is the extreme end of the spectrum. They use health scares to accelerate financial exploitation. A cancer diagnosis becomes urgency to get married or change your will. A heart problem justifies giving them power of attorney. They create panic around your mortality, pushing for quick decisions that benefit them while you're emotionally vulnerable from health fears. Insurance manipulation involves them potentially committing fraud in your name, making false claims, or directing insurance payments to themselves. They might pressure you to add them to your health insurance or to make medical decisions that maximize insurance payouts rather than your well-being. Chapter 16. The Housing and Living Situation Control. Your home is supposed to be your sanctuary, but manipulators often target housing as a primary area of control. For older women who own their homes or have stable housing situations, this manipulation can result in loss of independence, financial security, and even homelessness. Moving in manipulation often happens quickly. What starts as staying over occasionally rapidly becomes full-time residence. They move in without formal discussion, gradually bringing more belongings until they're fully established in your home. Once there, they resist any suggestion of leaving, claiming they have nowhere to go or that asking them to leave means you don't love them. They might push for you to sell your home, claiming it's too much maintenance, too expensive, or too large for just you. The real motivation is accessing the cash from the sale, or moving you into a situation where you're more dependent on them. They might pressure you to move in with them, where you'll be on their territory with less control and fewer options if things go wrong. Reverse mortgage manipulation involves them pushing you to take out a reverse mortgage on your paid-off home, accessing the equity you've built over a lifetime. They present this as a smart financial move that will improve your quality of life, but they're really interested in accessing that money for themselves. Once the equity is gone, you're left with nothing to leave your heirs and potentially at risk of losing your home. Home equity theft can take many forms. They might pressure you to take out home equity loans for their business ventures or personal needs. They convince you to add their name to your deed, giving them ownership rights to your most valuable asset. Some even forge documents or manipulate you into signing papers you don't. Understand that transfer ownership or create liens against your property. Household control extends beyond ownership to daily life within your home. They establish rules about who can visit, when and for how long. Your children need to call before coming over. Friends aren't welcome and family gatherings are discouraged. They might change locks, install security systems they control, or otherwise limit your access to your own home. They create financial burdens tied to housing. Perhaps they damage your property, creating repair costs you can't afford. They might stop contributing to household expenses despite living there, draining your resources to maintain the home. Some run up utility bills, create code violations, or otherwise jeopardize your housing stability. Chapter 17. The Communication and Reality Distortion Manipulators are masters of controlling narrative and distorting communication in ways that keep you confused, off balance, and unable to trust your own perceptions. They use sophisticated communication tactics that make it nearly impossible to have productive conversations or resolve conflicts. Word salad is a technique where they respond to your concerns with confusing, circular logic that seems to make sense in the moment, but leaves you more confused than before. They jump from topic to topic, bring up irrelevant past events, make false equivalencies, and use emotional reasoning that derails any attempt at logical discussion. After these conversations, you can't quite remember what the point was or how you ended up apologizing for bringing up your original concern. They engage in selective memory and strategic forgetfulness. Important promises they made are forgotten, but every mistake you've ever made is remembered in vivid detail. They claim conversations never happened or happened differently than you remember. They might even deny things they said minutes ago, making you question your own memory and sanity. The moving goalpost tactic ensures you can never meet their expectations or resolve issues. When you address one concern, they immediately shift to another. When you meet one standard, they raise it. Resolution is impossible because they don't want resolution. They want ongoing conflict that keeps you trying to please them and fix things. Projection is a powerful tool where they accuse you of exactly what they're doing. If they're cheating, they accuse you of infidelity. If they're lying, they call you dishonest. If they're manipulating, they claim you're the manipulative one. This creates confusion and puts you on the defensive, explaining and proving your innocence instead of addressing their behavior. They use tone policing to dismiss your concerns. Instead of addressing what you're saying, they focus on how you're saying it. You're too emotional, too angry, too upset to have this conversation. They'll only discuss things when you can be calm and rational, but of course, their definition of calm means never showing any emotion about their hurtful behavior. Minimization and maximization distort the importance of events. Your concerns are always minimal, overreactions to things that don't matter. Their grievances are maximum priority, requiring immediate attention and extensive apologies. They minimize their harmful behavior while maximizing any perceived slight from you. Chapter 18. The warning signs. You're missing. Sometimes we're so deep in a situation that we can't see the warning signs that would be obvious to others. Let's talk about the subtle indicators that you might be in a manipulative relationship. The ones that are easy to dismiss or rationalize but are actually serious red flags. Your physical health has deteriorated since the relationship began. You're experiencing stress-related symptoms like headaches, insomnia, digestive issues, or chronic fatigue. You might have developed anxiety symptoms like racing heart, sweating, or panic attacks that you never had before. Your body is trying to tell you something your mind isn't ready to accept. You've become someone you don't recognize. Friends and family comment that you've changed, that you seem different. You find yourself doing things you never would have done before, compromising values you once held dear. You look in the mirror and wonder who this person is and how you got here. You're constantly exhausted, not just physically but emotionally and mentally. You feel like you're walking on eggshells, never knowing what might trigger conflict. You spend enormous energy trying to predict and prevent their negative reactions. You're tired all the time but can't quite explain why, since you're not doing anything particularly strenuous. Your world has become smaller. You realize you haven't seen certain friends in months. You've stopped participating in activities you once enjoyed. Your life revolves around managing this relationship, keeping them happy, avoiding conflict. The rich, full life you once had has contracted to a narrow existence centered on one person. You find yourself lying to others about your relationship. You make excuses for their behavior, cover up conflicts, pretend things are better than they are. You might even lie about bruises, saying you're clumsy when they pushed you, or about financial problems, hiding that they've drained your savings. You doubt your own perceptions constantly. You second-guess your memories, your interpretations of events, your emotional reactions. You find yourself thinking maybe you are too sensitive, maybe you do remember things wrong, maybe you are the problem they say you are. Money seems to disappear without clear explanation. You're not living extravagantly, but somehow there's never enough money anymore. You might notice unusual charges, missing cash, or financial obligations you don't remember agreeing to. Your financial security, once stable, now feels precarious. You're isolated from support systems. Whether through direct action or subtle manipulation, you've become disconnected from people who care about you. You might tell yourself it's natural, that relationships change. But deep down you know something deliberate has happened to separate you from potential allies. Chapter 19. Breaking Free. The path to liberation, recognizing manipulation, is the first step. But breaking free requires careful planning, tremendous courage, and often external support. The process of leaving a manipulative relationship is rarely simple or straightforward, especially when the manipulator has embedded themselves deeply in your life. First, start documenting everything. Keep a hidden journal or digital record of incidents, conversations, and concerning behaviors. Document financial transactions, take photos of important documents, and save threatening or manipulative messages. This documentation serves multiple purposes. It validates your experience when they try to gaslight you, provides evidence if legal action becomes necessary, and helps you see patterns you might otherwise dismiss. Rebuild your support network secretly. Reach out to old friends or family members you've been isolated from. Be honest about needing help. Many will be relieved to hear from you and eager to assist. If you don't feel safe contacting people directly, consider reaching out to domestic violence hotlines or senior abuse resources, even if you don't think your situation is severe enough. These professionals can provide guidance and resources. Create a safety plan. This includes both physical and financial safety. Open a bank account they don't know about and start moving money there, even small amounts. Gather important documents like your passport, social security card, medical records, and financial statements. Store copies somewhere safe, perhaps with a trusted friend or in a safety deposit box they don't know about. Seek professional help from someone experienced in manipulation and abuse. A therapist who understands these dynamics can help you process what's happened, rebuild your self-esteem, and develop strategies for leaving safely. Be cautious about couples therapy with a manipulator, as they often use these sessions to further their control. Consider legal consultation early. Even if you're not ready to take action, understanding your rights and options is empowering. A lawyer can advise you about protecting your assets, safely ending the relationship, and obtaining protective orders if necessary. Many areas have legal aid services specifically for older adults or abuse victims. Plan your exit carefully. Leaving is often the most dangerous time in an abusive relationship. Don't announce your intentions until you're ready and safe. Have a place to go, money to support yourself, and people who know your plans and can check on you. Consider changing your phone number, email addresses, and even your daily routines to avoid unwanted contact. Be prepared for extinction burst behaviors. When manipulators sense they're losing control, they often escalate their tactics dramatically. They might threaten suicide, claim to be dying, promise to change, or cycle rapidly between rage and desperate pleading. Have support people ready to help you stay strong during this difficult phase. Chapter 20. Healing and Recovery. Leaving the manipulative relationship is just the beginning. Recovery is a journey that requires patience, self-compassion, and often professional support. The damage from manipulation runs deep, affecting your ability to trust, your self-esteem, and your sense of reality. Understand that healing isn't linear. You'll have good days and bad days. Sometimes you'll miss them, even knowing how they hurt you. This is normal and doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. Trauma bonding, the powerful attachment formed through cycles of abuse and affection, takes time to break. Reclaim your identity. Manipulation often erodes your sense of self until you don't know who you are outside the relationship. Rediscover old interests they discouraged. Reconnect with parts of yourself you had to hide or suppress. Try new things without worrying about their criticism or judgment. Remember who you were before them and explore who you want to become. Address the practical aftermath. This might include legal proceedings, financial recovery, housing changes, and rebuilding relationships with family and friends. Take these challenges one at a time. Accept help when offered. There's no shame in needing support to rebuild your life. Work on recognizing and setting boundaries. Manipulation often destroys your ability to establish and maintain healthy boundaries. Learn to say no without guilt. Practice identifying your needs and expressing them clearly. Understand that boundaries aren't mean or selfish. They're essential for healthy relationships. Process the grief. You're grieving not just the relationship, but the person you thought they were, the future you imagined, and perhaps the time you feel you lost. This grief is real and valid. Allow yourself to feel it without judgment. Consider grief counseling or support groups specifically for people who've experienced manipulation or abuse. Rebuild your ability to trust, starting with yourself. Manipulation damages your ability to trust your own perceptions and judgments. Practice listening to your intuition again. Celebrate small victories in decision-making. Gradually extend trust to others who prove themselves trustworthy through consistent actions over time. Be patient with trauma responses. You might find yourself triggered by things that remind you of them or the manipulation. You might have anxiety about new relationships or difficulty believing compliments. These responses are your mind trying to protect you. With time and possibly therapy, these responses will diminish. Chapter 21. Creating your shield. Protection strategies as you move forward. It's crucial to develop strategies that protect you from future manipulation. This isn't about becoming paranoid or closed off, but about being wise and discerning in your relationships. Develop a strong sense of self. The better you know yourself, your values, your boundaries, and your worth, the harder it is for someone to manipulate you. Invest in personal growth, whether through therapy, self-help resources, meditation, or other practices that strengthen your self-awareness and self-esteem. Learn to recognize early red flags. Trust your instincts when something feels off. If someone seems too good to be true, they probably are. If the relationship is moving too fast, slow it down. If you feel confused, exhausted, or constantly wrong in a relationship, pay attention to those feelings. Maintain your independence. Keep your own finances, friendships, interests, and living space as long as possible in new relationships. Independence isn't a lack of commitment. It's a healthy foundation for genuine partnership. Anyone who pushes for rapid enmeshment or dependency should be viewed with caution. Stay connected to your support network. Manipulators isolate their victims, so maintaining strong connections with friends and family is protective. Make these relationships a priority. Be open with trusted people about new relationships. Listen if multiple people express concerns about someone you're dating. Educate yourself continuously. Read books about manipulation, attend workshops, join support groups. The more you understand about these dynamics, the better equipped you are to recognize and avoid them. Share this knowledge with other women who might be vulnerable. Create accountability systems. Have trusted friends or family members who you check in with regularly. Give them permission to voice concerns if they see warning signs in your relationships. Consider having a code word or signal that means you need help without having to explain in front of a potentially controlling partner. Trust slowly and verify consistently. It's okay to take time getting to know someone. Watch how they treat service workers, how they handle disappointment, how they respect your boundaries. Pay attention to consistency between their words and actions. Someone genuinely interested in you will respect your pace and boundaries. Maintain zero tolerance for certain behaviors. Decide in advance what behaviors you absolutely won't accept. Lying, cheating, any form of violence, financial exploitation, isolation attempts. When someone shows you these behaviors, believe them the first time and leave, no matter how much they apologize or promise to change. Chapter 22. Financial fortification. Protecting your financial resources is crucial, especially as an older woman who may have accumulated assets over a lifetime. Financial security provides not just comfort, but also the freedom to leave unhealthy situations. Never commingle finances too quickly. Keep separate bank accounts, credit cards, and assets until you've been in a relationship for a significant time and have seen consistent, trustworthy behavior. Even then, consider maintaining some separate finances for your security and independence. Regularly monitor your credit reports and financial statements. Set up alerts for unusual activity. Know what accounts you have, what debts you owe, and what assets you own. If someone suggests financial changes, take time to research and consider getting independent professional advice. Be extremely cautious about co-signing loans or adding names to assets. These decisions have long-term consequences and are difficult to reverse. Anyone who pressures you to make these decisions quickly or without legal counsel is showing a serious red flag. Create financial boundaries and stick to them. Decide in advance how much you're willing to loan or gift in a relationship, and don't exceed those limits. Don't feel obligated to share details about your finances, inheritance, or assets early in a relationship. Someone who truly cares about you is interested in you, not your money. Have an emergency fund that no one else knows about or can access. This provides you with options and freedom if you need to leave quickly. Even small amounts saved regularly can build up to provide a safety net. Educate yourself about financial matters. The more you understand about finances, investments, and legal matters, the harder it is for someone to exploit your lack of knowledge. Take classes, read books, or work with trusted professionals to increase your financial literacy. Consider setting up protective legal structures. Trusts, powers of attorney with specific limitations, and other legal tools can protect your assets while still allowing you to enjoy your life. Work with an elder law attorney who can advise you on protecting yourself from financial exploitation. Chapter 23. The power of community. One of the strongest protections against manipulation is a vibrant, supportive community. Manipulators thrive in isolation but struggle when their victims have strong social connections and support systems. Actively maintain friendships, even when in a relationship. Make time for friends without your partner. Maintain separate social circles as well as shared ones. Friends who knew you before a relationship can provide valuable perspective on changes they observe. Join groups and activities that interest you, whether it's a book club, exercise class, volunteer organization, or hobby group. These connections provide social support and identity outside of romantic relationships. They also offer regular contact with people who might notice if something seems wrong. Consider joining support groups specifically for older women or those who've experienced manipulation. These groups provide not just emotional support but practical advice and warnings about common tactics. Hearing others' stories can help you recognize patterns in your own relationships. Build intergenerational relationships. Don't limit yourself to people your own age. Younger friends can offer different perspectives and may be more aware of certain types of manipulation, especially those involving technology. Older friends might have wisdom from their own experiences. Maintain professional relationships. Your doctor, lawyer, financial advisor, hairdresser, and other service providers can be part of your protective network. These professionals often notice changes in their clients and can provide objective observations about concerning situations. Cultivate relationships with neighbors. They can be invaluable allies, noticing unusual activity, checking on you if they don't see you, and providing immediate help if needed. Even casual friendships with neighbors create a network of people aware of your normal patterns. Stay connected to your faith community if you have one. Religious communities can provide spiritual support, practical assistance, and a moral framework for recognizing exploitation. However, be cautious of anyone who uses religious authority to control rather than support you. Use technology to maintain connections. Video calls, social media, and messaging apps can help you stay connected with loved ones regardless of distance. These tools also create records of communication that can be important if someone tries to isolate you. Chapter 24. Listening to your inner voice. Your intuition is one of your most powerful tools for recognizing and avoiding manipulation. Years of life experience have given you an internal warning system that often recognizes danger before your conscious mind does. Learn to distinguish between intuition and fear. Intuition often feels like a quiet knowing, a subtle discomfort, or a persistent feeling that something is off. Fear, on the other hand, is usually louder, more anxious, and often based on specific past experiences or future worries. Both are valid, but intuition tends to be more accurate in recognizing manipulation. Pay attention to your body's signals. Do you feel tense around certain people? Does your stomach hurt before seeing them? Do you get headaches after conversations with them? Your body often recognizes toxic situations before your mind admits them. Notice patterns in how you feel around different people. With healthy relationships, you should feel energized, supported, and like yourself. With manipulative relationships, you often feel drained, confused, and like you're performing a role rather than being authentic. Practice listening to your intuition in small matters to strengthen it for bigger decisions. Notice your first instinct about everyday choices and see how often it's correct. This builds confidence in your intuitive abilities. Don't let anyone dismiss your intuition as paranoia, overthinking, or irrationality. A caring partner might disagree with your concerns but will respect your feelings and work with you to address them. A manipulator will dismiss, minimize, or pathologize your intuitive concerns. Create space for your intuition to speak. Meditation, journaling, walks in nature, or quiet reflection can help you hear your inner voice more clearly. The noise and chaos that manipulators often create can drown out intuition, so creating peaceful moments is essential. Trust yourself even when you can't articulate exactly what's wrong. You don't need to justify your discomfort to anyone. If something feels wrong, that's enough reason to be cautious, set boundaries, or leave a situation. Remember that your intuition improves with use. The more you listen to and act on your intuitive feelings, the stronger and clearer they become. This is especially true after leaving a manipulative relationship, as you relearn to trust your own perceptions. Chapter 25. Wisdom for the next generation. As an older woman who has lived through various relationships and life experiences, you have wisdom that can protect not just yourself, but younger generations of women who might face similar manipulation. Share your story when you feel safe doing so. Your experiences, both positive and negative, can help others recognize manipulation earlier. You don't have to share every detail, but even general warnings about tactics you've observed can be invaluable. Mentor younger women in your life. Your daughters, granddaughters, nieces, or young friends can benefit from your wisdom about relationships, boundaries, and self-respect. Create safe spaces where they can talk about their relationships without judgment. Challenge cultural narratives that make women vulnerable to manipulation. Question teachings that women should be endlessly forgiving, that they're responsible for making relationships work, or that their value depends on having a partner. Model independence and self-sufficiency. Teach financial literacy and independence to younger women. Share what you've learned about protecting assets, maintaining financial autonomy, and recognizing financial exploitation. These practical skills are often not taught but are crucial for avoiding manipulation. Demonstrate healthy boundaries in your own relationships. When younger women see you maintaining standards, refusing to tolerate disrespect, and prioritizing your well-being, they learn that this is possible and acceptable. Create or support resources for women facing manipulation. This might include funding shelters, supporting hotlines, sharing information about available resources, or simply being a safe person others can turn to for help. Advocate for better education about manipulation and abuse. Support programs in schools, communities, and online that teach people to recognize and resist manipulation tactics. Push for these topics to be discussed openly rather than hidden in shame. Remember that ending the cycle of manipulation is a powerful legacy. Every woman who learns to recognize and resist manipulation is less likely to model acceptance of it for the next generation. Your strength and wisdom ripple outward in ways you might never fully see but that profoundly impact others. Chapter 26. When they come back, manipulators often attempt to return to former victims, sometimes months or even years after the relationship ends. This return, often called hoovering, like the vacuum cleaner trying to suck you back in, is a common tactic that you should be prepared for. They might return during vulnerable times in your life. Somehow they seem to know when you're lonely, sick, or struggling. They might reach out during holidays, anniversaries, or after learning about major life changes you're experiencing. This timing isn't coincidental. They're betting that vulnerability will make you more receptive. The approach might be dramatically different from how they were before. If they were angry when you left, they return contrite and apologetic. If they were needy, they return independent and successful. They present themselves as changed, having learned from their mistakes, finally ready to be the partner you deserved all along. They might use various entry points to reconnect. They send a text about something they found that belongs to you. They have a health crisis and reach out because you're the only one who understands. They need closure and just want to talk one more time. Each of these approaches is designed to seem reasonable, making you feel mean or unreasonable if you don't respond. Remember that real change takes extensive time and work, usually involving professional help. Someone who truly changed would respect your boundaries and not attempt to re-enter your life without invitation. The mere act of trying to circumvent your no-contact boundary shows they haven't changed at all. Prepare responses in advance so you're not caught off guard. Have friends you can call when they attempt contact. Block them on all platforms and be prepared to change your phone number if necessary. Remember that any response, even telling them to leave you alone, rewards their behavior with attention and encourages further attempts. They might try to use others to reach you. They contact your friends or family with messages for you, claiming emergency or expressing concern for your well-being. Brief your support network about this possibility and ask them not to pass along messages or information about you. If they escalate their attempts at contact, don't hesitate to involve law enforcement or seek a restraining order. Document all attempts at contact, even those that seem harmless. What might seem like persistence to others could be the beginning of stalking behavior. Chapter 27. The Smear Campaign. When manipulators lose control over their victims, they often launch smear campaigns designed to destroy your reputation, isolate you from support, and make you seem like the problematic one in the relationship. Understanding this tactic can help you prepare for and survive it. The smear campaign often begins before you even leave. They've been planting seeds of doubt about you with mutual friends, family members, and community members. They share concerns about your mental health, your drinking, your treatment of them, creating a narrative where they're the long-suffering partner dealing with your issues. Once you leave, the campaign intensifies. They become the victim of your cruelty, your abandonment, your unreasonable behavior. They might claim you're having an affair, that you've stolen from them, that you've been abusive. They mix enough truth with lies to make their stories believable to those who don't know the full situation. They weaponize social media, posting cryptic messages about betrayal and heartbreak that generate sympathy without directly naming you. They might share private information or photos from your relationship, violating your privacy while painting themselves as the wounded party. The flying monkeys, a term from the Wizard of Oz, are people the manipulator recruits to do their bidding. These might be mutual friends who believe their version of events and pressure you to return or apologize. They might be family members who think you're being too harsh or unforgiving. These people often mean well but have been manipulated themselves. Your response to a smear campaign requires careful balance. Defending yourself too vigorously can make you look guilty or unstable. Not defending yourself at all allows the lies to stand unchallenged. Focus on sharing your truth with those who matter most. Those who have shown they'll listen with an open mind. Document everything related to the smear campaign. Screenshot social media posts, save messages. Keep records of who said what and when. This documentation might be necessary for legal action and helps you maintain clarity about what really happened when gaslighting makes you doubt yourself. Some relationships and reputation damage might be permanent, and that's painful but survivable. The people who believe lies about you without seeking your perspective weren't truly your friends. Focus on strengthening relationships with those who support you and building new connections with people who know your true character. Consider whether legal action is appropriate. Defamation, harassment, and cyberbullying are real crimes. Consult with a lawyer about your options, even if you ultimately decide not to pursue legal remedies. Sometimes a cease and desist letter is enough to stop the behavior. We've covered an enormous amount of information today, and I know it might feel overwhelming. But knowledge is power, and understanding these manipulation tactics is the first step in protecting yourself from them. Remember, recognizing these behaviors doesn't make you weak or foolish. Manipulators are skilled at what they do, often having perfected their techniques over years or decades. If you recognized your own situation in any of what we discussed, please know that you're not alone. Millions of women have experienced these forms of manipulation, and there's no shame in having been targeted by someone who specialized in exploitation. The shame belongs entirely to those who choose to manipulate and abuse others, never to their victims. Recovery is possible. Healing is possible. A life free from manipulation and full of genuine, respectful relationships is possible. It might not be easy and it might take time, but you deserve relationships that add to your life rather than diminish it. You deserve partners who see your worth without trying to exploit it. You deserve love that doesn't come with conditions, control, or confusion. Take what serves you from this video and leave what doesn't apply. Not every manipulation tactic will be present in every toxic relationship, but being aware of the possibilities helps you make informed decisions about your relationships and your safety. Remember too that leaving a manipulative relationship, if you're in one, requires planning and support. Don't try to do it alone. Reach out to domestic violence hotlines, senior abuse resources, trusted friends, family members, or professionals who can help you create a safety plan. There's no weakness in asking for help. There's tremendous strength in recognizing you need and deserve support. For those of you who aren't currently in manipulative relationships, stay vigilant, but not paranoid. Use this information to set healthy boundaries, maintain your independence, and recognize red flags early. Share this knowledge with other women who might benefit from it. We protect each other by sharing information and supporting one another. To the younger women who might be watching, learn from our experiences. You don't have to go through what we've gone through. You can recognize these tactics earlier, set boundaries sooner, and refuse to accept treatment that diminishes you. Your worth is inherent and doesn't depend on anyone else's validation or approval. To the men who might be watching, if you recognize your own behavior and what we've discussed, it's never too late to change. Seek professional help to understand why you engage in these behaviors and learn healthier ways of relating to others. Real strength comes from respect, not control. Real love involves supporting someone's growth, not limiting it. As we close, I want to leave you with some affirmations that you might find helpful. You are valuable regardless of your relationship status. Your worth doesn't decrease with age. If anything, your wisdom and experience make you more valuable. You deserve respect in all your relationships. Your feelings are valid. Your concerns are legitimate. Your boundaries are important. You have the right to safety, peace, and genuine love. Before you go, please remember to like this video if you found it helpful. Your engagement helps us reach more women who might need this information. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming videos on relationships, personal development, and emotional well-being. Please share this video with women in your life who might benefit from this information. Sometimes the most caring thing we can do is share knowledge that might protect someone we love. You never know who might be suffering in silence, needing exactly this information to recognize their situation and find the courage to seek help. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts, your experiences, or questions you might have. Our community is here to support each other, and your story might be exactly what another woman needs to hear to recognize her own situation or find the strength to leave. If you want to support our channel's mission of empowering and protecting women through education, consider using the Super Thanks button below. Your support helps us continue creating content that matters, content that might literally save lives. Thank you for spending this time with us today. Thank you for your courage in facing this difficult topic. Thank you for your strength. Whether you're currently dealing with manipulation, recovering from it, or supporting someone who is, remember, you are never too old to start over. You are never too invested to leave. You are never too anything to deserve respect, genuine love, and a life free from manipulation. Your best days can still be ahead of you, filled with authentic relationships, genuine care, and real love that builds you up rather than tears you down. Stay strong, stay aware, and most importantly, stay true to yourself. Trust your instincts, maintain your boundaries, and never let anyone convince you that you deserve anything less than respect, honesty, and genuine care in your relationships. Until next time, take care of yourselves, support each other, and remember that knowledge is power, and you now have more power to protect yourself and live the life you deserve. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.